Amen. Oh, Amen. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. This morning we're going to meditate few minutes. After the meditation, we have Dhamma Talk and the question and answer and chanting. End of the service, we have food serving in the 2 doors down over there. So please stay for lunch also. And we just finished the meditation, 1 hour meditation around 9:30 to 10:30. Thanks for coming for everybody. I think we are having more people coming right now. So please take a seat. You can put some chairs here this side also. Please come this side also. We are accepting more people today. So that's good news. And this morning, Stephen Subodha is going to lead the meditation. So after the meditation, Reverend Kusala is going to give a Dhamma Talk. So Stephen, just within 1 minute when they sit after that, you can start meditation. Subodha, you can start meditation right now.
Let's get into a comfortable position. We want to strive for alert, but not tense, straight, but not rigid. Eyes closed if you're comfortable doing so. Right hand on top of left in your lap. And let's begin with 3 deep breaths. And now let us think thoughts of goodwill, of loving kindness, of metta, beginning with ourselves. This is a sincere wish, a wholesome intention that you have for your own happiness, your own well-being. You might think to yourself, may I be happy? May I be peaceful? May I be free from suffering? May I live with a heart and mind unburdened? May I be free from greed, aversion, and delusion? And let those be more than words. Really have that intention for yourself, for your own well-being, for your own long welfare and happiness. And now extend your thoughts, your intentions further. And think now to your loved ones, your family, your friends, your teachers, Dharma teachers, the people that you hold near to your heart, the people that you admire and respect. For them too, have this wholesome intention for their happiness, skillful thoughts of goodwill, of loving kindness, that they be happy, that they be peaceful, that they be free from suffering, that they live with hearts and minds unburdened. And now extend your metta even further to your acquaintances, people that you may not know so well, but that you interact with. May they too be happy, peaceful, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened. Now extend your loving kindness further. Now to those that you may not know so well, may not like as much, those that perhaps are hard to get along with. Some of the people in this category may even be called enemy. They may call you enemy. The people that are difficult to know. For them too, we also extend our goodwill, our metta. We wish that they be happy, peaceful, free from suffering, that they live with hearts and minds unburdened. This is a skillful intention that we have for twofold reasons. One, because of the ripple effect it has, this intention, on our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. Our very actions become marked with this goodwill that we have for everyone. It becomes how we act in the world. But then too, if our goodwill can touch the hearts of others, and they too live with hearts unburdened by greed, aversion, and delusion, then who could we rightfully call enemy? And so it's with that intention that we spread our goodwill, our metta, in all directions. We spread our loving kindness in front of us, behind us, to the left and right of us, above and below us. To all sentient beings everywhere, we extend our metta. May all beings be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May all beings live with hearts and minds unburdened. And so with that intention shared in all directions, shared with all beings, including ourselves, we turn our attention now to the breath. You can sit now and be aware of the breath as it moves through the body, as every cell is enlivened with the inflow of breath, and how that cycle repeats as the breath is expelled and breath comes in again. When the mind wanders, we can bring our attention back to the breath so that we can use the breath as a refuge, an island, so that we may use it to still the mind and fortify it. So that we can use the breath as a pleasant abiding, free from defilement. So continue to come back to the breath. Make it your friend. Get to know it well. And continue to do so for the few moments we have left in meditation. Stay with the breath until you hear the bell.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Stephen, leading the meditation. Uh, right now it's time for the Dhamma Talk. Before the Dhamma Talk, I just want to announce a couple of things. Next Sunday, the coming Sunday, I believe the 11th, Dhamma teacher Sai Maharjan is going to give a Dhamma Talk. The September 10th, I believe, we are doing the Ulamban service, which is offering merit for the merit for the departed relatives. Please come and join. That day we have a Sangha Dana, we are offering Dana for the monks, maybe 12 monks, maybe 10, 12 monks, and we are offering lunch for everybody also. Please come and join, which is next month, September 10th, I believe. I'm not sure, the second Sunday of the September. So right now, Reverend Kusal is here. He's going to give a Dhamma talk.
My video didn't work today on my laptop. Life. So I guess I got to be in person today. I had to leave my studio. I'm going to talk about building a practice. I think it's important if you're new to Buddhism to understand what a practice is and how to build it. So I'll share some insights that I gained when I built my practice. So this was about 1978, and I decided I needed a religion. So I bought a book by Houston Smith called World Religions. And there was a chapter on Buddhism. And I read that chapter on Buddhism. And I said, I want to become a Buddhist. So I wasn't divinely inspired at all. It was page 34 that inspired me. And I really didn't know how to start because I didn't know anybody who was a Buddhist. I didn't know anybody who meditated. I didn't know anybody that read that book except for me. So I went to the bookstore, Bodhi Tree Bookstore, back in the good old days, and found a book by a guy who went to, I think he was a Danish or Swedish guy, and he went to a Zen monastery someplace in Asia. And this was his account of that, his diary, if you will. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. What he experienced and how he experienced it. And I was able to understand that because it wasn't technically difficult. There wasn't a lot of Dharma or sutras or explanations. It was just how he felt about it, what he experienced, what he did. And it was a very positive experience to him. So I found another book by another guy that went to a different monastery, and I read his story. And I started to get a little familiar now with how it feels in a vicarious way to go to a Zen monastery and sit and meditate and hear the teacher talk and the sutras and stuff like that. So then I bought a book on the sutras. It was some basic sutras, Pali. Didn't understand it at all. I said, okay, this isn't going to work if I can't understand the sutras. So then I bought another book on the commentaries of the sutras, explaining what they meant. I got that. Okay, so it was an odd course for me to get there. I remember reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I read the whole thing and really missed out on all the Western philosophy. So then I bought a book on how to read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and I understood much more. So that's sort of my arc, if you will, on coming to Buddhism. And then I decided, well, I really should not just intellectually understand it, but I should actually experience it, because oftentimes the experience is different than what you think it's going to be. So I found this place. This was like 1979. And we had ads in the Yellow Pages. Remember the Yellow Pages? We had ads in the Yellow Pages. And they said free meditation instruction on Wednesday nights. All are welcome. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I found parking. It was cold and rainy. I found parking, much easier then than it is now. And I came in here and it was freezing. They didn't turn on the heat. I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with these people? Are they trying to save money? Not realizing that part of the excitement of meditation is feeling the environment personally. So I sat down on a cushion. We had the tatami mat, we had the zafu, and I go, okay. Now they said, this is what you need to do. Extensive instructions. You need to sit there. We're going to sit quietly for 15 minutes, and then there's a 5-minute break. And we're going to sit quietly for 15 minutes, there's a 5-minute break. And we're going to sit for 15 minutes, there'll be a 5-minute break. And then Shinzen will come down and give a Dharma talk. Now I'm thinking, Shinzen, Dharma talk? You know, that didn't click at the time. So I sat there and I just suffered for 3 periods of meditation. Knees hurt, back hurt, mind was raging. Why am I here? There must be something else I could do with my time. And then finally the gong rang and Shinzen came down. Okay, now Shinzen was a Jewish guy from LA who was studying at UCLA, and he was studying Japanese culture and language. And he decided to go to Japan to get up close and personal with what he's studying. And he ended up getting ordained as a Shingon monk. And then he came back to the States and he moved in here. Reverend Karuna said, yeah, you can stay here, you can live here. So he had a room here, you know. And so that was my first introduction to a Buddhist teacher, was this Jewish guy from LA who went to Japan. Okay, so now he's going to give a Dharma talk and he's talking about stuff. And I'm going, wow, I didn't understand most of what he said, but he said it in a way that led me to believe I could understand it if I came back a second time and kept meditating. So I listened carefully. I sort of went over what he had to say. And then I went and found another book that sort of dealt with what he was talking about, because he was very much a Mahayana monk at the time. He later became a Vipassana guy, but at the time he was Mahayana and Zen. And that's how it started. So I would recommend, if somebody wants to learn about Buddhism, to get a book first. You know, and there's so many really good books now that weren't available when I started. And they're simple and understandable, and there's examples, and there's websites connected to them, and there's YouTube channels, and there's all sorts of places to start, just to get the feeling of what Buddhism is as a practice. And then the second part is to actually practice, to actually meditate. And so I was told that it's probably good if you could meditate maybe 15 minutes a day. And you could pick the morning or the evening, depending if you slept in or got to bed early. And then as that became more comfortable, then it's 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. So your meditation practice becomes bookends to your day. And it's sort of a nice way to start the day. It's a quiet way. Your mind is pretty clear. It hasn't been cluttered with all the events of the day. And then in the evening, it's sort of nice just to let all that stuff go. You know, all the trials and tribulations of making a living or just living, and sort of pushing that aside for a while and just letting your meditation happen. Now, if you're going to have a meditation practice, you got to figure out what kind of meditation you're going to do. So there are 2 kinds of Buddhist meditation. There's samatha meditation, which is tranquility meditation, and there's vipassana meditation, which is insight meditation. And there are 4 kinds of vipassana, 4 kinds of insight, and 40 kinds of samatha meditation. And if you're wondering, the Buddha did both. He started out with samatha meditation, tranquility meditation, and the yogis and teachers of India taught him how to do that. And as the story goes, he was fantastic. He soon became better than his teacher. And on a couple of occasions, his teacher said, would you take over my students for me? Because you're so much better than I am. And he said, no, I haven't found it yet. This isn't exactly what I'm looking for yet. So, but thank you for the opportunity. And then he would go find another teacher, and he'd go find another teacher. And then finally, he came to a place in his practice where he decided to do insight meditation. Now, insight meditation is something that people do who want to be on the fast track to nirvana, the fast track to nirvana. And it said all Buddhas at one time or another practice insight meditation in order to achieve nirvana. Okay, so it's got a good history. It's a good recommendation. I have done both. I prefer samatha meditation. I prefer tranquility, bliss, happiness, all those good things. Man, those are great. Insight meditation for me personally was a little too jarring. You know, you get to this sort of place where you start to see things that maybe you don't want to see, because now you have this sort of clarity and insight into the true nature of your life. And you go, should I do Thorazine or should I do samatha meditation? What would be a good antidote for my reality that has just shifted? Because the world is cruel. You know, it's a tough world out there. And the whole idea is to be in the world and not have the world affect you in a negative way. So I have found that doing samatha meditation allows me to be tranquil and peaceful in the midst of the chaos of Los Angeles, California. That this place is a trip. And ever since the pandemic ended, it's gotten worse. And I'm thinking sanity is at such a low place right now that most people are insane. And so our meditation practice and our study of Buddhism allows us to have a certain clarity and tranquility and be able to go out into the world and not have it affect us in a negative way. Wow, cool. So there I am meditating, went from insight to tranquility, insight, and back to tranquility. And now I'm starting to gain a foothold in the practice of Buddhism. This, I have to warn you about the practice of Buddhism, that you can never go back. You're stuck. Once you start on the path of Buddhism, you can't forget what you learned. You can only go forward. You can't even stay where you are because everything is always changing and becoming different. There's no place to stand. You can only go forward. So if you wish you could go back to your original ignorance and not have the world affect you the way it is now, it's just a wish. Words of warning. But what you gain if you stay on the path is a certain confidence that this practice has proven to be true to you. Now that is amazing, because 100 people can come up to you and say, this is true. You go, well, maybe. But in your apartment, late one night, while you were meditating, it became true to you. And nobody can convince you otherwise. How cool is that? Validation. No faith required. People ask about faith in Buddhism, and there are certain forms of Buddhism that requires faith. But I have found in my practice of Buddhism that you only need faith during the first step. The first step is you have faith that there may be a practice, there may be a philosophy, there may be a religion that will give you what you're looking for. That's the faith necessary to take the first step. When you finally take the second step, that faith magically transforms into confidence. And now you know for sure that that's the truth, your truth, the truth to you. Can you convince your family? No. I've been meditating over 30 years. My family thinks it's a little odd, you know. So you're not going to take a whole lot of people with you, you know, along your journey. It may just be you or a close friend until they find something else. So you have to be ready for that as well. Now, what do you need? You need to have a place to meditate. And it's often recommended in your apartment or house to set aside just a little space, maybe a corner. And that's where your cushion is, maybe a picture of your guru or your teacher or the Buddha or Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, all sorts of stuff. Okay, that's there. And if you want a candle that smells nice, that's good too. Or maybe a little incense bowl for some incense, that's good. And that's your sort of meditation space. So you want to make that sort of pure and just for meditation. Okay, so you do that. And then you're practicing and practicing. And then you say, I wonder if there are any other people in the world who are practicing meditation. Is it just me? Or perhaps there are other people out there. So then you need to find other people. They can be your Sangha. Sangha usually means monks and nuns, but you can also be lay people too. This is your Sangha. This is your group. This is when you come together occasionally to meditate together. But 90% of the time, your meditation is just going to be you. So don't get too attached to having a bunch of people around you meditating with you and encouraging you and supporting you. Because most of the time, they got stuff to do, and it's just you in your corner, lighting your incense another night, But that's good. That's how it's supposed to be, because your meditation is for you. It's not for anybody else. Though when you meditate and do it well, now that's an odd thing to say because there's no right or wrong way to meditate, but it affects other people as well, because you have now allowed yourself to be transformed in a small way that transforms other people around you. Your kindness, your generosity, maybe your happiness. Every time I go to the grocery store, I see no happy people. They're all gone. They all went someplace. All I see are serious people. How much is this muffin? It's too much. Okay, So it's just like it's for you, and your kindness and generosity can affect other people as well. So that's cool. So now you've got your space. Now you found a group that you can meditate with occasionally. And now the big deal is to maybe once or twice a year, go on retreat. Sign up for a retreat. And they have some that are free, and they have some that are really expensive, and they have some that just travel all over the world. And so you pick the one that you think is good. There's, I think, in North Fork, which is in California, it's a Vipassana retreat, Goenka Vipassana. And the money you give to the retreat goes to the next person who's going to show up. So you're paying forward, which is really a cool idea. So you get to meditate for free. And then if you want to leave money for the next person, you leave money for the next person. So now you got maybe 10 days. I started with 3 days. That was about all I could take. But 10 days is good, And what you do is you sort of get into a place where you're only going to meditate and listen to Dharma. There's like no cell phones, which will drive a lot of people crazy. There's like no TV. There's no YouTube channel. There's just you and other people, and they warn you, don't have eye contact with people, because that's when the drama starts. You have eye contact with people, and you go, I wonder what kind of girl that she is. And then it starts. The stories start in your head. Or if you're, what kind of guy that is. He looks like he's successful. I'd like to meet him after the retreat. No. You don't talk to anybody. You don't look at anybody. The idea is to go inside, not outside, to go inside. Who am I? That's the big question. Who am I? And when you start looking, you're going to be surprised what you find. And I have found there is no event that you are not an event, even though you are somebody and think you're somebody, and people relate to you as somebody. You are a process, ever changing, no core, no essence. Wow. They say in Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, empty of independent existence. And once you find that, you realize that you are interconnected and connected with everything and everyone all the time. It's never about you. It's always about we. We did this and we did that. and it was good or it was bad. But you never can take credit for either one of those because you were one of the contributing factors that made that happen. But there were 999 other factors that were necessary for it to happen. And you were just one. You were the important one because it was about you, who actually doesn't exist in the way you think you do. And this meditation retreat can lead you to a really cool place of just lifting the burden of being who you are for 10 days or 3 days, and just being the process. I sit, I eat, I sleep, I sit, I eat, I sleep, I listen to a Dhamma talk. Who's listening to the Dhamma talk? I don't know, but it's happening. Cool. This is now you come back and you go back into that world, and it's a little more transparent than it was before. It's not solid and unchanging. You sort of see the structures underneath. And you go, wow. Shinzen always used to say, and this just tripped me out when I first heard it, he would point to the wall and say, you know what, that wall is transparent. I'm going, what the hell is he talking about? That's not transparent. He says, that wall is transparent. That wall is a concept. You're seeing a concept. It doesn't exist in the way you see it. You're seeing the word. I see the word wall, but what is it really? Form, sensation, perception, consciousness? What is that wall really? So when you get into your Buddhist practice and you start challenging yourself, which doesn't exist in the way you think it does, you start to become a little more kind, because you realize that everyone has very strong delusions about everything. And now you're starting to see through them. So you can't go up to people and say, no, no, that wall's transparent. You can't do that because you're going to freak them out. They haven't done your practice. They don't understand. So you go, isn't that a nice wall? I like to paint. It looks good. Then they feel comfortable. And if you go up to somebody and say you're a Buddhist and they don't know anything about Buddhism, it's not going to work. Better to say you're a meditator. What do? I meditate. They're not going to know what that is either, unless they meditate. But it sounds a little less challenging to be a meditator than a Buddhist, you know. And all the work I've done out there, community service, the first thing they do when you get into an institution, like I was a police chaplain for 7 years in Garden Grove, the police officers, when I'm in the car doing ride-along, would always say, what's Buddhism? I'm thinking, well, we got 12 hours together in the car. I'll just start talking. And about 10 minutes into my talk, I just shut up because I looked at his face and he's going, what the hell is this guy talking about? You know, he's a Presbyterian. He doesn't know about Buddhism. And he didn't want to know about Buddhism. He just wanted to make conversation. So I asked him, what kind of walls do you have at your house? He said, oh, we're really nice. They're painted gray. And my wife just bought some new drapes. Those are the kind of conversations that we have as we're practicing Buddhism, unless somebody is sincerely interested. Okay. Now, it's best to look at your practice as never ending, that you'll never come to the end game of your practice. Because even the Buddha, if you read the Parinirvana Sutta, in his last breath, went into the fourth jhana, which is the deepest kind of concentration you can do. There's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no this, there's no that. And he died in that fourth jhana. So he meditated. Even after he achieved nirvana, he still meditated. So all of us here, we haven't achieved nirvana. So it shouldn't be a great surprise to us that we're going to have to meditate for the rest of our life. And then if you're really good at meditating in this lifetime, you get to do it again in the next lifetime. And the next. And the next. And then one day you will achieve nirvana. Wow, how cool is that? Now, what is nirvana? The Buddha never talked about it. He sort of hinted at it. But I'll give you my definition of enlightenment and my definition of nirvana. And enlightenment comes from tranquility meditation. And nirvana comes from insight meditation. According to me, that's my disclaimer. Tranquility meditation, enlightenment, the direct experience of the interconnectedness and interdependence of all phenomena. That's enlightenment, according to me. Nirvana, characteristics of nirvana, they are the end of suffering while you're alive, the end of karma, and the end of all future rebirths. Now, the difference between rebirth and reincarnation is reincarnation requires a soul, and rebirth requires karmic energy, which is reborn time and time again. And when you achieve nirvana, you end your karma, and then there is nothing left to be reborn. So you go into this unborn, undying state of existence and non-existence at exactly the same time, and it's really a hard sell. Hey, let's all not exist together. That doesn't sound like any fun. We need to exist so we can have a good time. But what's a good time? And who's having it? That's the question. And so you never want to really go there in a serious way. You're just going to go, yeah, maybe one day nirvana. But if I get enlightenment, I'll have a unique perspective on the world. And you can get enlightenment first and nirvana second. And you can even go to a heaven called Pure Land. They have a whole Buddhist tradition called Pure Land. And it is so cool. They feel that you really can't achieve nirvana by yourself. It's too hard. The way has been lost. And you have to have faith, vow, and devotion in order to go into Pure Land. And once you're in Pure Land, everything speaks the Dharma. The babbling brook speaks the Dharma. The rabbit over there speaks the Dharma. The birds flying overhead speak the Dharma. Guaranteed to achieve nirvana once you make it to the Pure Land. So, is that a popular form of Buddhism? In Asia, it's the most popular. And they're chanting all the time. They're chanting all the time. So that Amitabha Buddha, the Buddha of Pure Land, will come down and personally escort you. And then you can achieve your nirvana there. Which, you know, after years and years of meditation and hundreds of retreats, Pure Land may sound pretty damn good. I'm tired of meditating. Let me just chant and go to heaven. That might be good. So the practice of Buddhism leads in a unique and wonderful personal way to awareness and tranquility. And those two combined lead you to kindness, generosity, and wisdom, which are the results of your Buddhist practice. Okay, I see by the clock on the wrist, we're getting close to the end. Anybody have any questions about what I've said today? Or comments? Yeah, John.
You mentioned there's books that people can start with, intro books. Is there any that come to mind?
You know, not really. I haven't read any for a while. But all you got to do is go on Amazon and do Beginning Buddhism. And if you have a Kindle, you can download it immediately, instant gratification. And then all you have to do is read it. And then you'll find another book to read. But I can't think, none of the titles come to mind. Because I was reading back in the 80s and stuff, you know, so they probably don't even publish them anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks though. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, hi.
I have a comment, maybe, Urban Dharma is good. The podcast, if it still is available,
Still available.
15 years ago,
Really?
15 years ago, I was sitting here. After listening to Urban Dharma for a while, I realized, actually, this guy is in LA. I think I go. And exactly as you described, I actually listened to Urban Dharma before I started meditating. Here, it was a couple of nights a week that were available.
Yep.
Everybody walking, would sit here on the
Yep.
cushion. 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
That's where I realized the benefit of going to a special meditation place, because I remember on the drive to here, I would let go of my daily troubles, and then I would have a special place to meditate here. And when I realized that, I told it, this is really great. I should come here more. They said, why do you think you should come here? And then I went on to retreats and so on, everything as you described. And I remember the moment when the meditation became true for me. It was right there on the chair 15 years ago.
Wow.
You didn't know that I'm going to come here today because we were just passing through LA. But the story that you told is exactly what happened to me after you, what happened to you after. So,
Wow. Are you the reason my computer camera didn't work
I don't know.
and I had to come down?
I don't know.
Okay.
But
Well,
I'm glad it did.
well, welcome. Thank you. That's good. And I've got a book coming out
I know.
next month.
I know.
Yeah.
And
And guess what it's called? Urban Dharma.
excellent.
Yeah.
And your Facebook post brightened my day.
Really? Wow. Well, thank you. I feel validated. That's good. Thanks for coming today. That's good. Okay. Are there anybody on Zoom that has a question? Nobody has a question. Wow, I answered them all. Hi.
First of all, thank you so much. I have a question about anger and what to do with it. Once, because as I start seeing more, I get frustrated sometimes.
Yeah, the Buddha talked a lot about anger. It seems to be prevalent, especially after the pandemic, and especially at Vaughn's supermarket. And so you have to sort of analyze what anger is. How does it feel? You know, inside, you know, what does it feel like inside? And the Buddha talked about, he said, it's like holding a bowl of coals, and it's hot coals, and it's burning your hand. And what you think you can do to relieve some of that anger is to share your anger with others, because some of those coals will be transferred from you to them. And then in a way, you'll be validated, because now we have 2 people who are angry. And then they share their coals, and they share their coals. And now we have a whole group of people who are angry. Did you see what happened in New York City a couple of days ago? The free giveaway that didn't turn out to be a giveaway. Talk about anger. Man, talk about thousands of people angry at the same time. So what I have found is, and this is after meditating for a while, okay, and after studying Buddhism and sort of Zen stuff, I say, well, who is angry? What part of me is angry? Is it my right index finger? My left ear? Can I zoom in on the part that's angry and just work with that? It's an emotion, and so the mind might be filled with anger because it's not the way it's supposed to be. And what happens in meditation is you come to a place, and this isn't like a month or a week later, this is like a year or 2 later. You come to a place where you say, why do I think it's supposed to be that way? What leads me to believe that 1, 2, 3 always goes to 4? But that's what I learned in school. My parents told me if I did this, that would happen. My boss told me if I did this, that would happen. My partner told me if I did this, that would happen. And when it doesn't happen, did they lie to me? Well, the deal is everything sort of takes 1,000 things to occur. You're one of the contributing factors. You can't make everything happen just because you want it to happen. So now, how can you work with your anger? Number one, forgiveness. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for being angry. And then forgive the situation that you're angry at, be it person or circumstance. Okay, you forgive them. And what does that forgiveness do? It eventually allows you to come to a place of acceptance with the way things are. So forgiveness, acceptance. And once you come to a place of acceptance, the anger falls away. Okay, until the next time. So that's what I do. Forgiveness, acceptance. And then who's angry? And then why did I expect it to be this way when it's not? And it's like a game we play with ourselves. And then we realize there's no self to play the game with. And so we're all winners. It works out fine. Thanks for the question. I hope that helped a little bit. Yeah, that's a good question. So anybody else? Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to say something quickly. Nice to see you all. Sorry I was late to join, but I caught exactly what I needed to hear. As crazy as this sounds, I just returned from the Pure Land. I went down to Jamaica in the West Indies when I was 19, and I didn't want to come back. I had a job interview at ABC News in New York. I lived in New York. And my boyfriend at the time asked me what I was smoking, that I would give up a job, which I did get at ABC News, to stay in Jamaica. And he said, if you don't come back, I'm coming down to get you. I should have stayed. And I've been going back as often as I can. I hadn't been there in 10 years. I just got back after 5 weeks of being there, and I'm moving there. And I have, for me, coming back, everything material in my apartment, things that I've collected and loved, have no, what you were saying exactly. I mean, they're imaginary. You know, it's the attachment that I had put on them that made them valuable. And when I walk in, I see things familiar, like I said, that I've collected, and now they're just empty. They're just taking up space, really. And so I'm selling everything and I'm moving back. I mean, moving back is how I think of it, but I'm going to move there permanently. And every morning, waking up, you know, I lived at the beach in Playa del Rey here in Los Angeles, and it was beautiful, and the birds and the wildlife were exactly what I needed. And yet Jamaica holds something very special for me. And everything I saw down there, every step I took was a meditation. And I'm not recommending that anybody go to Jamaica. It's not the point. The point is that starting the path of Buddhism, I don't know what it is now, 40 years ago with Karuna at IBMC, it's self-generating. Starting meditation enabled me to want more meditation and to want more. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't a craving. It was a natural process you know, it's kind of like growing up. It's just a natural process. We don't control it. And that's how I feel about enlightenment now. You know, it's kind of like once I didn't realize this until, I don't know, a month ago, that once I started on the path became alive. So the key thing was to start, because I have a completely different perspective now. And I don't think I've ever been this happy or this much at peace. You know, there were problems at the airport, but all the airports. And it was, as they say in Jamaica, like water off a duck's back. Nothing stuck. Everything just was like a wave that just rolled past me. And it's very hard to not cling to our emotions, as we all know. And I don't know that I've ever been in a state like this. So, I mean, I've been on antidepressants because my doctor put me on them. And in Jamaica, I stopped taking everything. And I even said to her before I left, once I get there, I'm not going to need them. She said, well, let's not predict, you know, just take them with you and don't stop. And I did stop taking them. And it's been great. And I've spoken to my doctor since I got back, and she's said to me, I don't think I've ever heard you this good. I don't think I've ever, you know, seen you this good, because it was a video call. And anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing her in person to get whatever tests needed to make sure I don't, you know, I'm healthy going down there, which I am, but I just want to confirm it. And it's just amazing to me how Buddhism in theory intersected so flawlessly with my existence now. And I decided what I want to come back as in my next life, because I'm not assuming anything. And it's as a Jamaican pelican, because when I watch them glide and just sit on the waves, motionless, just totally just there, I thought that is a flawless life. You know, I mean, it's just, it's been mind expanding. That's all I want to say. So I'm really grateful today for being here now. Thanks. And thanks for your talk. It was really good, really insightful.
Thanks, Meera. We don't have time right now. Thanks, Kusala, also. Thanks for everybody. We're going to chant the page 4 and page 10. Again, I want to mention next Sunday, which is the 13th of August, Sai Marjan is going to give a Dhamma talk. So right now we're going to chant page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Sangam
Saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to save them all. Dhamma
The gates are limitless.
I vow to study them all. Buddha's way supreme. I vow to attain. Make suffering once be suffering free. And the tears of happiness free. May the grieving shadow creep. And the sick find help relief. Oh, Amen. Thank you for everybody again. We have lunch in Anand Hall. Please go there and you can enjoy the lunch. And please come again next time also, next Sunday also. We have limited parking in the backyard behind the two house there. So you can park there. So thanks again for everybody. And if you have, please leave a donation for the temple. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, you all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.